There are 2 miraculous healings reported in the scriptures this morning. Seems that people back then, just like people today, were concerned about wellness. Anyone that could heal them of their diseases and help them to stay well were seen to be some sort of miracle worker, and the word was quick to spread around and people began to follow. We'll get back to the Bible in just a few minutes after we first touch base with today to bring ourselves into the story. We hear a lot about wellness today. The word pops into health food stores, stores majoring in vitamins and minerals and exotic herbs and extracts and pharmacies and supermarkets with aisles that are devoted to organic foods, bottled water, that some of which have vitamins in them, and shelves of all of the vitamins and minerals and natural remedies known to humankind, together with foods guaranteed free of pesticides and chickens and other meats free of hormones and antibiotics and hopefully free range. There are a million diet plans out there. Well, okay, maybe not a million, but an awful lot. And they are out there in order to help us become more healthy and stay healthy. There are high-protein beverages for athletes and veggie burgers for vegetarians and for those who are just curious to see if they really taste as good as they look, and they do. And tofu and highly nutritional milkshakes in a can, organically grown foods, candy bars that claim to be good for your health. I like that. I'm personally waiting for the perfect health food cookie with real chocolate chips in it.
It's out there.
Did someone say there is one?
Yes.
Oh, good. Lead me to it. There are cereals that sport oatmeal as an important ingredient, somehow lowering our cholesterol levels, though I suppose pure oatmeal is best. It's not my favorite. That's why I call it Elmer's glue. No, that's not, I'm sorry, that's telling you a little personal stuff. Staying well physically isn't always a bowl of cherries, as they say. Mark Twain once wrote, "The only way to stay healthy is to eat what you don't want, drink what you don't like, and do what you'd rather not," unquote. Seems that way sometimes. There are times when one little voice inside says, "Go work out at the fitness club today." There's another little voice that says, "I'd rather not." If you look and you'll find lists of restaurants in our area that use olive oil rather than the bad stuff for cooking and frying, and you can find heart-smart choices all over the place and menus almost everywhere. You can find wellness centers all around the country. Inside a physical fitness center there is usually a pool and a juice bar and different kinds of vegetable juice combinations to encourage and to maintain your wellness. There are aerobics classes and diet classes, health screening clinic, a wide array of things to increase and improve our general wellness, and that's good. In addition, we are flooded with articles galore and newspapers about nutrition, relatively new and recommended food pyramid that tells you how much of certain foods to eat. Even insurance companies are making noises about investing to keeping people well rather than to wait until they become ill. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be well. And there are lots of choices. There are frequent medical alerts on 10 and 11 o'clock news each night cautioning us to not eat something we've been eating all along, or some medication that we've been using for some time and that now it's being questioned. And now there's enough evidence to arouse our interest. On the internet the other day, I typed the word wellness into the Google search engine. It came up with over 117 million occurrences of the word itself. Probably there are many more versions of that. Greg Anderson, a cancer survivor and writer of several best-selling books, writes in one of them, "Wellness is one of the greatest, most powerful words in the English language." And I think he's right. Who isn't in favor of staying well? All those raise their hands, but you don't need to. I think that's a consensus. Wellness is a way of living, a lifestyle of the whole person, body, mind, and spirit. All of us need to stay well to be well. Being well is about that total person. A bowl of oatmeal doesn't do the whole thing. The reading from the Gospel of Matthew today broadens our view of wellness, if nothing else. It talks about faith. It talks about the power of God in keeping us well and on the path that leads to wellness if we have been derailed somewhere along the way. Two people reach out to Jesus, and two people are made well by a relationship with him. In the one case, the leader of the synagogue, named Jairus, reaches out to Jesus with the emergency of his daughter's illness and imminent death, asking Jesus to hurry, come, place his hand on her. Jesus had a reputation. Reaching out to touch him was an opportunity for healing. Jairus reaches out in faith that this will make the difference. As Jesus is on his way there, a woman suffering from a hemorrhage of many years reaches out to Jesus also. What is an emergency medical technician to do when on the way to one emergency, another occurs along the roadside? Jesus stops and pays attention to the woman reaching out in faith that he can do something for her. In his stopping for her, she changes from being a nobody in the crowd to being a somebody. That in itself is a wonderful thing. When someone who has been treated as a nobody becomes a somebody. In just touching his cloak, she believes she will be made well, and Jesus turns and says, "Take heart, daughter, your faith has made you well." There's that word well again, but it's tied to something more than physical wellness this time. It's tied to a woman's faith, the wellness of her spirit inside. Jesus can touch your inner spirit and make it well and keep it well. When Jesus reaches the home of Jairus, he goes into the house, reaches out and takes the daughter's hand, and she gets up. Her father's faith is the reason why this is all happening. He went and called Jesus and said, "Please come." Two people reached out for a miracle, and they were touched by Jesus reaching back, and they were made well by a relationship. The Bible would have us know that faith in God as the director of life is the essential ingredient for total and complete wellness. Not just our bodies, but our inner spirits. Here are a few lyrics from an old hymn. When peace like a river, we just sang it. When peace like a river attendeth my way, or when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul, my soul. The most important sustaining kind of wellness that prepares us to meet and successfully deal with all of life's circumstances, the most important sustaining place we need to stay well is in our souls, in our hearts. That kind of wellness provides spiritual life and strength, and that kind of spiritual life and strength flow from a relationship with a Christ that you know is with you. He says, "Fear not, I am with you." He means it. Jesus was crucified, as we all know, but the greatest miracle and healing of all history is that Jesus rose again. can still touch your life today if you reach out to be made well and kept well. A man went into a barber shop for a haircut, for trim of his beard, and as often happens in barbershops, the conversation flowed freely to all kinds of topics. I used to go to the barber and expect to know all the news of the town and everyone else's lives, and it was funny. When the subject of God came up this time, the barber resolutely said, "I don't believe that God really exists." "Why do you say that?" asked his customers. "Just go out in the street and the world, you'll see the suffering and the pain that's there. I don't believe that God really exists." Avoiding an argument, the customer just listened and left after his haircut. And out in the street, he saw a young man with a long, stringy, dirty hair, untrimmed beard. Looked like he needed to see a barber. He looked in sad shape. The customer, thinking he'd try out the same logic with the barber, returned inside and said to the barber, "You know what? Barbers don't exist." To which a confused reply came back. "What do you mean? I'm right here. I'm a barber. I'm just worked on you." "No," the customer insisted, "barbers don't exist, because if there were, there'd be no people out there with stringy hair and untrimmed beards." And the barber replied, "Ah, but barbers do exist. What happens is people do not come to me." "Exactly," affirmed the customer. "That's the point. God also exists. What happens is that many people do not go to God. They do not come to Him. God reached out to be touched. We do not always reach back to touch God. I believe it to be accurate to reword the invitation that Jesus made when He said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest." I think it could be reworded to say, "Come to me, I will make you well in ways that really matter and will make your life complete." Let us pray. God, we come to you as you have already come to us, waiting for us to come to you now in a relationship that changes lives and inspires hearts and minds with your words and leads to faithful deeds, faithful words. Help us to be servants of that word as we live our lives each day, passing on to others that which has made us well, to help also keep them well. Amen.